hope that your physical problem improves very rapidly. Thank you. My pleasure. The meeting of August 21st, Delaware Public Service Commission is now we're open. And this is the last meeting for a couple of people, Ms. Iori, and also Bob. Is Bob Shefkin here? Because Bob's back there. So we have two people who we won't be seeing as much around here anymore. So, okay, we have the reading of the meeting minutes of July 31st. Does any commissioner have any corrections, changes to that meeting minutes? If not, Commissioner Gray.
I move that the commission adopt the minutes as submitted.
I second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor
Aye.
signify by saying aye.
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 I heard Commissioner Curious, so aye, that's 5. We made it. Aye. Consent agenda. Oh, no, I'm sorry, the public comment. Do we have anybody here that would like to make public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I would.
And would you be kind enough to have a seat,
Yes, thank you.
relax, and let us know what your name is, and
Okay.
we'll give you a couple minutes to talk to us.
Okay, thank you. Yes, my name is Mary Graham, and you all might recall that I was here back in April in connection with the Delmarva electric rate case. And thank you, Chair Winslow and the other commissioners for letting me comment today. I would like to give you an update about the settlement with Delmarva and how it stands as far as the homeowners. And, you know, it was interesting this morning. I saw this headline in the New York Times that talked about Amtrak and its ancient infrastructure and how it was playing whack-a-mole. And I thought, wow, you know, that actually is relevant to what I want to talk about today. Because we have had, in the last 18 months, in my area, off of Weldon Road, in our communities, there are several of them, we've had at least 4 power surges and at least 1 outage. So the big one that started our appearing before you all was this on March 14th, 2023, which resulted in over $100,000 worth of damage and was what I call a 3x surge, 3 times as much voltage coming in because of the overbuild line at 34 kilovolts and the 12 kilovolt under line, which goes into the neighborhoods. There was a power surge in September of 2023. I don't know that that was overbuilt, but there was a lot of damage from that and into some additional communities. There was a power outage in November, which I only mentioned because it happened to be on Thanksgiving when a lot of people were cooking their turkeys. This did not go over very well. Then there was a power surge in April of 2024. I'm not sure. I may have been told the cause, but I don't remember it. But then there was another 3x power surge, overbuild surge, on August 9th recently. So how are we in this situation where even though we intervened 18 months ago and we've been raising all these issues, we're still suffering from all of this, these power outages and power surges, most importantly. And that's where I look at Amtrak and what they're talking about Amtrak and playing whack-a-mole and having a design structure from the 1930s, and it's just not been addressed. So let's at least talk about the elements of the settlement for us. One was they were supposed to start improving their collection of data because, you know, they report to you about their meters that are out, not about what happens to customers behind the meters. So hopefully they're going to have some better data on that. Importantly, a big part of the settlement was the station class surge arresters on the overbuild line. They agreed to 4, but then we had a big meeting thanks to the public advocate and their fantastic engineer, Greg Booth, whom everybody recognized was phenomenal, including Delmarva's engineers. And there was an agreement to put in 5 more because we have this big overbuild line comes down Tally and goes this way along Weldon Road, and then there are these lines into these developments that go off of that. So, like, where are you going to place these things on here to be effective, right? So the public advocate's engineer, Greg Booth, and convinced Delmarva that, yes, let's do 5 more of these than what was agreed to. My impression was they would get right to work on that. They also agreed to look more seriously at this at-the-meter technology, which is a way that we all as homeowners it's an extra layer of protection. It's not the same as your at-the-home surge protectors, which, they're not all that great. But they agreed to look at them. So where are we? So Delmarva's begun to accept some reports from customers. We'll see how that goes. But the additional 5 substation class arresters have not been put in. So here we are, 8-9 months after we first thought they were going to start working on them, and they're not in. And when you look at the map of where they're supposed to go and see what happened in this August 9th surge, which they say, oh, a tree fell on the line on Weldon Road because of Tropical Storm Debbie. Well, that's just deflection. Trees are going to fall. They're going to fall on that road. So you have to have the ability to deal with them. That's good infrastructure. That's good design. That's what we should have in 2024, and we don't. Interestingly, one of the 5 additional substation class arresters was going to go about where that tree is. I don't know if it would have mattered, but the surge doesn't just stay on Weldon Road. It goes in. It follows that little 12 kilovolt line all into our neighborhoods. And we had people well into our neighborhood who were impacted and damaged yet again by this surge. So, I fault them for not getting those in already. Then also, they were supposed to look seriously at this at-the-meter surge protection. And it's clear to me that they have not. They didn't start with calling the person that Edward Nathan, he's the guy who lives in Weldon Park, who came and spoke briefly to you all, who actually went out and did his own research, called Duke Energy in Florida and found out that they had, it worked well with them. Has Delmarva called them? Nope. They just started on, not till June 28th, sending out a blast email to a lot of people. Well, I'm sorry, but that's, meanwhile, we're suffering from these power surges. So, what I learned in what I was originally told about their assessment when they said no about at-the-meter technology, and then the Public Advocates Council, Regina Iori, stepped in and say, wait a minute, no. You agreed to actually go and get data, and we want to see that data. But what they told me was, well, it doesn't really make business sense for us. And you know why? Because when they make a business decision, as far as I can tell, there's nowhere in the system that tells them you actually have to consider the damages to customers and the quality of their service. I mean, where is that? I haven't seen it. I mean, it's sort of pressure from the commissioners if you look at them askance. I don't think they like that. But the actual business decision for them does not involve thinking, oh, well, let's see, what if we cause $100,000 of damages to customers? Maybe we should do something about that. No, they just owe a duty to their stockholders, and they're immune from lawsuits because their tariff makes them immune. So we're asking ourselves, what can we do in this system? I mean, we're limited. I don't want to go to the legislature and start, working there or something. But there's at least a couple things that have occurred to me. I mean, one, you could ask the CEO of Delmarva to come in, but, I wouldn't bank on getting real information. It's a lot of blather, frankly, is in their filing to get a new regulatory scheme. They haven't demonstrated that they will take a big picture look at how to make a better electrical system that actually serves customers and doesn't damage them. But, that would be one. Another one is to get before you all a request for a special rate class. I call it the Third World Service class. So for those of us who are subject in 18 months to 4 power surges and at least 1 power outage, then we shouldn't be paying the same as what everybody else is paying who's actually getting good service. And most people that I talk to don't suffer from power surges out there who aren't in our area. So we could have a special rate class. That would give them the economic incentive when they go back and they have their little meetings with their 10 people sitting around, that somebody says, oh yes, I think we actually need to consider the fact of the economics on this for our customers. Lastly, I think we could have a change to their tariff to allow them to be sued. I mean, not that that's something that any of us really want to undertake. I sure don't. It's, I know how much work that is, but at least it would send a message to them that say they are liable for when they send these massive power surges through, because they can do something about it. They absolutely can do. They have engineering equipment that we know about, and tell me that they can't sit down and improve whatever technology they are using with really good engineering solutions. I bet if we offered a scholarship or something, or an award to electrical engineers, students, graduate students at the University of Delaware, and said, hey, can you come up with a good solution to this? I'll bet you we'd see some really good things. So I just wanted to update you all, and that unfortunately is where we are. I do want to say, I do not fault any of the people that I personally deal with. Marcus Beal, Brian Jordan, and of course Don Crompton, who now is no longer involved, unfortunately. But what I fault is the system over them in which they have to work. And that's why I'm saying the incentives need to be built into the system. And, you know, I mentioned 3 different ways to help with that. So, thank you.
Don't go anywhere. Wait.
I was going to run out the door.
Well, I appreciate you. First of all, I don't know if you remember, but I'm pretty much aware of your issues because I lived in the neighborhood you're referring to close by.
Right.
So this has been really a long-standing issue with Delmarva Power. It's nothing that's really very new. And I think your organization should be commended for the work it's done on behalf of the neighborhood and the neighborhoods, I guess I should say. And it's really disappointing to me, having voted to give Delmarva a considerable amount of money in our last rate case, that this has not been taken care of, at least in a way that you know it's going to be happening sometime soon. It is just very, very disappointing. Now, there's one person in the room who's no longer going to be with us for very long, so I want to task her with telling you what it is that we might do, or the commission might do, to help move this along. Ms. Iori?
Oh, I've spoken with Ms. Graham many times about this, so I mean, she and I discussed some of the ideas that she proposed to you.
Okay.
Regarding a separate rate class, and although I kind of like what she called it, or changing the tariff to remove their zero liability for damages caused. There's certainly, you know, while I understand that the commission doesn't want to make it strict liability for every little thing, and that would not be workable either. Certainly in a situation such as this, where Delmarva has been on notice of the problems that the people in these neighborhoods have experienced for years, I mean, I think that is, you know, something where they, in a situation such as this, we could perhaps remove their lack of liability for that. There's also the what we argued, the DPA argued in our testimony last year. The commission has the authority to examine the service that Delmarva provides to its customers, and to reflect the good, or, you know, the quality, shall I say, of the service in Delmarva's ROE.
Ms. Price?
Thank you. When we were talking with Ms. Graham before, our engineer brought up the fact that Delmarva's arresters are not close enough together. He had done some work in North Carolina where the arresters were closer. I think as a beginning, let's do a simple solution. Let's go out there with someone who knows these arresters, like our engineer, and see if putting these closer, which would cost a little more money for Delmarva to get more arresters, would solve the problem. That's all.
This settlement agreement provides for these additional arresters.
Right.
Delmarva's explanation to Ms. Graham is that they're tied up in red tape at DelDOT. They have not explained what, if anything, they have done to try to untie that red tape. They seem to be content to just let it sit there until DelDOT gets around to it. Commission could certainly encourage Delmarva to push it at DelDOT faster than they have been.
Commissioner Gray?
Thank you. Ms. Graham, thank you very much for coming back to the commission. I think the frequency of power surges in your community, for me, is rather shocking. No pun intended. I think in the interest of time today, in terms of the agenda that we have, the one stakeholder I haven't heard from, but I don't think it's appropriate today to extend the scope of the discussion. I would really request that we do have a full-throated presentation to the commission so we can kind of understand who owns the solution and how to remove the obstacles to get those owners to actually assert a solution and deploy it.
Mr. Hardigan, I want you to invite Delmarva Power and Light to attend our next meeting to explain to us, you know, their plans for this issue and to inform us of any, you know, handicaps that might be holding them back so that we can address those as well at some point in time. It just seems like to me that this should be given some priority by DP&L. Mr. Jordan, does that meet with your approval, sir?
Good afternoon, Chair, Winslow, Commissioners. Brian Jordan for Delmarva Power and Light. The short answer to that is yes. There's been a lot of discussion today, and I was hoping to get a chance to address at least a bit of it, although I understand Commissioner Gray's concern, too, about the time and the agenda. But showing up at the next meeting to discuss this, where all sides have a chance to present what's happening, I think would be helpful. The DelDOT thing, for example, those lines are what's called the clear zone. They're next to the road. If you want to replace those lines, you need a hardship request. The concern is that you've got a car driving and it goes off the road and it hits a pole. You've got to make a hardship request to DelDOT to be able to keep that pole there. Otherwise, you've got to move it out of the clear zone, which can be very expensive, and it would go in somebody's front yard. So those are the things that we've got to get through with DelDOT. Those 5 arresters now are in that permitting process. We submitted the hardship request, but I'm certainly, like I said, happy at the next meeting to go in a little bit more detail about what's happening, what Delmarva's done, what we're waiting for, how we're prepared to proceed once those permits get cleared. We've got the materials earmarked, ready to go. So, like I said at the beginning, Your Honor, yes, that would be good.
Okay.
One last comment, Mr. Chair. If DelDOT becomes critical to the successful solution to the problem, can we invite someone from DelDOT? Because my interest in this discussion is going to be related to also the timing by which we can get the implementation complete.
And Chairman Winslow, would it be appropriate for the DPA's engineer to be available to discuss this as well?
I see no reason why not.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Graham, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Well, the only thing I would add, and it would be not to upset any of what you have established here, which I really, really appreciate. But if Delmarva wants a little help with a call to DelDOT, some of us know how to make those calls and put some pressure on people. So, you know, we are, you know, happy to give some assistance in that if that would be helpful.
That's something I can consider with my client. We have several hardship requests with DelDOT. There's some related to the Amazon project. There's the ones related to Weldon Road. And so I will discuss that with my client about anything that we can do. Reach out to Ms. Graham as well, if there's anything that they can do towards DelDOT to get these permits cleared, certainly.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Thank you, Ms. Graham.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to make public comment to the Public Service Commission?
I wanted to make a public comment, not as a part of Delmarva, but as a member of the bar and a citizen in Delaware. And I wanted to embarrass Ms. Iori for a minute because it's her last meeting. And I wanted to get this on the record. And I can't pass up the chance for a free-range discussion about Ms. Iori. And if she objects, I expect the commission to overrule those objections. I just wanted to say, she's one of the most formidable attorneys I've ever crossed paths with. You know, I had the fortune of having my own practice for about 9 years. I was in every court in this state, every JP court, every CCP court, Superior Court, Court of Chancery, Supreme Court, District Court. I can't think of another attorney who's ever been more prepared for an argument, who's ever been more prepared for a case, who's ever done a better job representing her client, not just the public advocate, but the ratepayers in Delaware. And I wanted to make sure that that was on the record, that she made me better because of how prepared she was, how knowledgeable she is about this. It's a real loss, but I also want to say I hope she enjoys her retirement and to keep in touch.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. That was very nice. I appreciate that. And of course, obviously, the 5 commissioners and staff have been here over the last a lot of years, and we have recognized her as being the creme de la creme. She's been terrific, and a lot of fun too, actually. So we do also praise her and wish her well for the future. And I do hope she'll come back and visit occasionally. So, anybody else want to say anything about Ms. Iwori while we got her on the hot seat, so to speak?
Gina, you and I have gone back a long way, and we have fought some battles together and against each other. And your presence as my counsel has been tremendous, and thank you so much. Have fun on your little jaunt to Africa that you're not taking me on with, and I'm gonna come by your house, so because I know where you live. So, but it has been an enormous privilege to have you as my counsel. Thank you.
Gina, do you want to say anything yourself? No. Okay. Okay. I guess we'll go on to the consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda that a commissioner wishes to have taken off and placed on a regular agenda?
Move we adopt the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Commissioner Correa. Commissioner Correa. Are you on mute? One not voting. The motion carries. The regular agenda. Number 1 is in the matter of Expo US LLC et al. And, well, you all know what it's about. Come on up and have a seat and we'll talk. Okay, I'm not sure who we should start with on this one. I guess, Ms. Sweeney?
So I will be deferring to our co-counsel. It's Bob Weishaupt.
Yeah. Should I proceed?
Please.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioners. I'm also happy to let Mr. Yuffie proceed, but I think the discussion today needs to focus primarily on the jurisdictional issues, and we left off at our last meeting. The procedural process was for the SOS suppliers to file supplemental comments and then have Delmarva Power and Light, DPA, and staff respond to those comments. And all parties have done their due diligence and filed supplemental comments. I'm happy to echo some of the points that staff made in its supplemental comments. I'm also happy to answer any questions, whatever the chair's prerogative.
I have no additional questions. Anybody else on the commission? Mr. Yuffie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
happy to take the opportunity to respond to the comments. Staff was the only party to reply to our comments with respect to jurisdiction. And I think basically it comes down to a relatively simple issue, which is this commission has the jurisdiction to approve the FSA, the RFP process, the SOS auction process. It has the jurisdiction to amend the FSA and to approve changes in language to the FSA. To suggest that the commission doesn't have the jurisdiction to interpret the language that it has approved in the agreement seems nonsensical. And I think this, a lot of what we've heard with respect to the way the petition has been characterizes as a dispute. In fact, the petition requests that the commission interpret the language of the agreement that it has approved and over which it has jurisdiction. And the interpretation is around the provisions of whether or not there was a price change, a PJM change to PJM pricing that falls under 2.4, and what the word known means when in respect to 7.1H, where it said where the price is known. And that's really gets back to the substance. So on the jurisdictional point, yes, there are the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission has jurisdiction over wholesale power supply agreements. And this agreement acknowledges that FERC has jurisdiction over some issues. The courts have jurisdiction, but it also acknowledges that this commission has jurisdiction. And it's not narrowly to basically either blanket approve or not approve the language, sort of in what I would say is the narrow way that staff has sliced the commission's jurisdiction. We're asking for the commission to interpret what it means in the language in the agreement, or what the language means, and in the context of the intent of the parties. So I'm happy to go. I don't want to upset the commission by delving into the substance. If we want to just keep it to the jurisdictional issue, I'm happy to do that. I'm also happy to explain why the jurisdictional issue and the substantive issue are basically go hand in glove.
Thank you very much. I think we'll handle the jurisdiction issue first. I think that's all. Mr. Weishauer?
Yeah, if I could respond briefly, I mean, just sort of recount the history here. You have a wholesale power supply agreement that the commission has reviewed and approved for the limited purpose of allowing Delmarva to subsequently recover costs if parties conform to that agreement, and Delmarva comes back and seeks recovery of those costs. A dispute has arisen regarding the interpretation of that contract. And does contractual provision 2.4 apply, or does contractual provision 7.1H apply? That's the nature of the dispute. The regulated public utility here, Delmarva, has taken a very reasonable and defensible contractual interpretation that Section 7.1H is the prevailing provision that it should apply. Delmarva has not come to this commission as the regulated public utility seeking any type of relief or defense of that position. It is a dispute regarding a wholesale power supply agreement between Delmarva and its upstream suppliers. There's been no affirmative demonstration by the SOS suppliers that the commission does in fact have jurisdiction over that dispute. The only basis that the suppliers have surfaced is an interpretation of Section 303 of Title 26, and only the second half of that Section 303. And as staff has laid out in its comments, when you look at Section 303 within the overall context of Title 26 and the relationship over which the commission does have jurisdiction, which is between a regulated public utility and its retail customers, that language in the second half of 303 does not provide sufficient basis, and the petitioners haven't demonstrated that it provides sufficient basis for the commission to exercise jurisdiction over the dispute that has arisen under that FSA.
Mr. Yuffie, do you feel compelled to make some comments in response?
I mean, the lawyer in me says yes, I feel compelled, but I recognize that I would simply be reiterating the same
Okay.
arguments, so.
Yeah, so that's a wise move. Commissioner Drexler.
I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to consult with our commission attorney.
On the legal issues involved in this matter. Is there a second? Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Commissioner Korea? Not. Okay, if that's 5 ayes. We will go into recess for about 10 minutes. Why don't we make it 20 minutes of 2, and we'll be back, and we'll deliberate and make a decision.